It's personal. Gentlemen, welcome. And people who are, happen to be viewing, welcome to the It's Personal podcast, the only place that you're going to find not so biased fantasy advice because we're tearing it up today. We are ranking our redraft teams for our 10-year running Beer Drinkers Fantasy League. You love to see it. You love to hear about it. And we're going to get down today. I have with me Jacob Bartley, Justin Morsaz, Joseph Morsaz, and Damon Ricks, all part of the Beer Drinkers League. Gentlemen, how are we doing?
Pretty good. Excited to talk about this one. This is the main league. And by the way, it's 8 years, right? I think this is the 8th year it's been going, but nearly a decade.
I say 10 because it sounds cooler.
You always
just go with it.
Hey, 8 years is a lot, honestly. It's a long time.
Round up, all right? Well, gentlemen, it's nice to have you, even though we're going to be at each other's throats in just a few minutes here. But before we do, thank you all for tuning in today. Feel free to like and subscribe. It does so much for us. You want to make people happy, right? So give us a like because it'll make us happy. And you'll be happy too because you made someone else happy. You can find us anywhere you get your podcast. That's Apple, Spotify, or YouTube where you're watching this currently right now. You can also find our socials, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at First Round Fantasy. We're always down to have a conversation and talk things out. This is the It's Personal podcast, the only place where you're going to get very much biased advice. And who knows, you might just find someone who plays like you. With that being said, today, again, we are ranking our 2021 PPR 10-man fantasy football league. It's consensus time, guys. We're going to start, and I know we had a lot of trouble with this when we did our dynasty rankings just a few weeks ago. We're going to start from 10 and work our way down to 1. Okay, gentlemen? Let's not make it too difficult. We know how to do it now, so the routine shouldn't be too hard. But I'm not going to waste any time. Jacob's on standby, ready to pull up our teams. Gentlemen, on the count of 3, we will reveal our first, or should I say, our dead last top 10, which is our – okay, now I'm confusing myself, but we know how to do this.
The worst team in the league.
Team in the league.
By
gentlemen,
far.
On the count
Guaranteed.
of 3, feel free to shout it out. 1, 2, 3.
Gabe.
Well, I actually have Johnny.
Johnny.
The wolf of all.
Johnny's team's worse than Gabe.
Guys,
his team is the
then
wolf
guess
of all
what?
streets.
The wolf of all streets, yeah.
I was prepared to come and defend my team right out of the gates, but it looks like I was spared in a verdict of 3-2. So we're going to go ahead and talk about Johnny, the main man. He's
So,
currently
Gabe, you
known
had
as the
Johnny
wolf.
also?
I had Johnny as well.
Oh,
He's
nice.
currently the Wolf of Wall Street in our
Wolf of all
fantasy league.
streets. Wow, and I
Oh, the
had
Wolf of
your
Wall
team
Streets.
queued up. I had your
dude.
team queued up, so let me bring up
Dang.
his team.
Well, I guess that means that we're not too
No.
far off from mine.
Yeah,
so
we're doing Johnny's team, though.
it'll come
Here
up
we
at
go.
some point.
Yeah.
Let's pull up Johnny's team here, and we're going to break down the reasons why. I'll give a summary. Anybody wants to jump in, feel free to speak your piece. Johnny's not here to defend himself. So, again, let's let him have it. He currently has Russell Wilson as a starting QB. I honestly do feel like he has the best wide receiver duo in all of football with DeAndre Hopkins. Year in and year out, one of the best. I don't think he's going to fall off this year. Terry McLaurin, those guys are going to be deadly. Austin Eckler as his running back. Chris Carson as the RB2. Mark Andrews, the newly paid money man. Then things start to get scary. Brandon Cooks as one of his flex options. Cortland Sutton as his other flex option currently. I would probably put a guy like Melvin Gordon on in there this week. He's got Marquez Callaway. Don't know why he has him on his bench. A.J. Dillon, Gabriel Davis, Duke Johnson, Jalen Reagor, and Tyson Williams. Gentlemen, I know that I have him dead last. Damon, you have him dead last. Jacob, you have him dead last as well. What are you feeling? Why do you have him dead last?
Well, I was when in the pre-show before we started, I was telling Joe about because a lot of our teams, the starting wide receivers and the starting running backs are solid. So where can you find the difference? Like he has a solid tight end, but it's really the flexes that I don't feel good about. Brandon Cooks and Cortland Sutton as my flexes. Like if I were him, I would even probably start Melvin Gordon, which we talked about earlier this week on the other podcast. And is what was your not your fool's gold, but your dark horse game this week. So it just really depends. But I just don't like his wide receivers aren't the best in the league. His running backs aren't the best in the league, and his flexes aren't. I don't like his flexes, so that's what it really comes down to me. Because like if he had an edge at one of those other positions, I would maybe have him higher, but that's kind of my reasoning.
I feel like his initial wide receivers are like top tier, great, and then it just kind of falls off the wagon with. I mean, guys, Brandon Cooks, sure, he could be great. He's had, 5 out of his first 7 seasons, he's had 1,000 yards. Last year, he was close to it. But you're trusting Tyrod to do that this year, or at the worst, Davis Mills? I don't know. That team's going to be so bad. I have Brandon Cooks in another league, and I don't feel good about it. And for that reason, that's why I have Johnny where he is. I think his flex spots need some major improvement. His backup running backs, they're serviceable. A.J. Dillon, hey, he could come on strong. But that's about it. He's also got Tyson Williams. He could come on strong, but nothing really sexy to me about Johnny's team. Damon, you were the other low guy on him. What do you think?
It's pretty much piggybacking off what Jacob said. Everybody has a solid team in this because we do the double flex. And when you get down to when you have a double flex league, the bench is way more important than the guys, like the fringe guys that you got to throw in there. And I think Johnny's just worse than everybody else's.
That's a good point.
So, Justin, Joe, you want to touch on him or you want to touch on it a little bit?
I'm going to be Johnny defendant here because I don't have him near 10. The reason I don't have him at the bottom is because his top heavy, what you're saying is true, but you're underestimating his top heaviness. Those players like Wilson, D-Hop, Eckler can win weeks just on their blow-ups. So strictly because of that, I can't put him at the bottom. But his depth is the worst.
Yeah. So I am at number 9. And I think the biggest reason was because he took Eckler first. And it's nothing against Eckler. I think he's a fine player when he's playing, and I know the hype is around him, and everyone's saying he's top 6, top 5. I can't trust him. I can't trust him to stay healthy. I don't think he's built for that. I'm going Aaron Jones or even taking that risk that Saquon Barkley stays healthy because those calves, Damon's favorite calves in the league. Yeah. And I don't know, man. After that, it was, again, Chris Carson. I think he's getting older. I do like his wide receivers a lot. And I'm actually higher on Cortland Sutton than you guys because I think Teddy Bridgewater is going to have Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy both fantasy relevant this year. And I actually think Gordon and Callaway aren't that bad. But I had him at 9. But I do agree. Everyone's team in this league felt like it was pretty equal. It was really hard to find those edges, and I think that the reason I knocked him the most was just because I think he reached on Eckler. I don't like that as a number 1 pick. So I'll agree with Justin. I'll defend him a little bit. Definitely not the worst team in the league, but I do have him near the bottom.
And to put it into perspective, I think it's fair to mention, I think it's the dreaded 5 spot. That's where Johnny was drafting from. I don't like the 5 spot whatsoever. I don't know your guys' opinions on it. But, there might have been some other running backs there. I agree with Joe that he could have picked up over a guy like Austin Eckler. That might have been a little bit of a reach. But, hey, you like the guys you like. And I think Eckler is, for the most part, ranked as a top 10, top 12 running back this year. So you're basically saying, hey, if he's an RB1, he's going to be an RB1. Which one do I like more? There are guys that I like better, so I can agree with Joe there. But, hey, I wasn't number 1, so I'm excited. Do you guys have anything else to say before we move on to the second worst team in the league?
No.
Man. Oh, this is close.
All right, let's do it. So I just want to make sure on the count of 3, we can say our second worst team, and I'll get my shield and my helmet ready to defend myself if it is me. So on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3.
Jacob.
Jacob.
Gabe. So, wait. So Justin had Gabe last. I had
Gabe's team is next,
Jacob
though.
Wait, hold on a second. Who was your second worst team? Justin, who was it?
You.
No,
okay.
Yours was John.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, Jacob.
But I was the first worst team.
You were the worst.
Okay, fair enough.
My worst as well.
Damon, who was your first worst?
Jay. No, my first worst was Johnny.
Second was Jacob. Okay. Joe, I was your first worst.
Yeah, Jacob
That's
was
2 for me.
Not even my second worst, so I can't put him there.
Okay, and I had someone else. So I guess I will defend myself. All right,
Yeah.
time to put on the defensive
Hold
armor,
on. Before you get a chance to defend yourself, because I think you should get to build up after Justin and I go.
Well, you were the last.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I'm
Okay.
getting antsy here, fellas. I'll let you
So-
talk. What do you think?
Wait, how could you defend yourself if they haven't told you why they don't like your
Yeah.
team?
Well, it's obviously second worst. I have to defend myself, right?
So I had
let it
Gabe
happen.
as by far and away the worst team in this league. And I'm going to tell you why. At least with Johnny's team, I thought he did have a top 6 tight end, which I do like Logan Thomas. He was good last year, but I have Mark Andrews way ahead of him. I also have Jacoby Myers as not fantasy startable right off the bat at all. You do have Chase Claypool, which is nice. But then your top end talent, as much as I didn't like Johnny's, I have Devontae Adams and Jonathan Taylor pretty equal to Eckler and Hopkins in terms of fantasy output. So then it comes down to your 3rd and 4. And if I'm looking at CeeDee Lamb and Myles Gaskin and I'm looking at McLaurin and I have the edge him. And then again, he has the edge at tight end. Your QBs are pretty solid. And I think your flexes are about the same. I do like Jerry Jeudy. I'm with you. But I don't think that you had a huge edge there. And then in terms of your running backs, Taylor and Gaskin, I'm not huge on either of those guys. I do like Gaskin, but if he's my RB2, I'm feeling a little bit weak. I was debating even making him an RB3 in one of my leagues. And I think you reached on Lance. And as much as I hate to say it, I think you took Sermon just strictly out of trade value, both of them. And I don't think it's going to pay off because I don't think anybody – we're in too many leagues, Gabe. That's the problem. I understand when we were all in one league, you take the Raider and you say, you know what, Shane is going to overpay for Jacobs because this is the only league we're in. But in our leagues, I have Lance in another league. I have Sermon in 2 leagues. Jacob is the same. I don't think any Niner fan is going to come knock on your door to overpay for either of those guys. And I think that's where you made the biggest mistake of all. You went way too young. You took Niners that you shouldn't have because you thought you would have the trade value. I don't think Gio Bernard is even rosterable. I don't like. I'm not trying to be rude.
Hey,
Let's hear it.
relax.
Keep it
Chill,
coming. I'm
chill,
listening.
Joe.
I'm
God.
listening.
I'm not
All
trying to
right.
hurt anybody's feelings. Justin, go ahead.
All right, so I would change your team name.
I changed my pick to game. Sorry.
I would change my team name to Team Reach for you because I'm looking for first, second, third, fourth. I love Devontae. I love JT as your 1-2. And then after that, I'm like, did he trade his 3rd and 4th rounder for 7th, 8th rounders? I don't know what happened. So do I think you can win weeks? Yes, but it's going to take for all your players to hit a potential that we want them to hit, but it's too early. Your whole bench is borderline not rustable to me. You know what I mean? So
Chase.
Well, I don't think anyone's whole
well-
bench is borderline
rosterable.
rosterable. That's why they're on the bench.
I think my bench is fully rustable. We'll get there, but Trey is not. I just don't. I just think in this league, a lot of even drafting and the bottom tier, you guys are close, but I don't get a wow factor out of you aside from Dak, Devontae, and JT. Outside of that, maybe CD's the next threshold, but it's too difficult for me to rank higher.
And I think the hype on CD is way too high right now, considering Amari Cooper was. Listen, CD was fantastic. He was top 15 when Dak was healthy. But I also think Amari Cooper going 2 rounds after CD in every redraft league that we did is fucking criminal
CD is
to
better
me.
than
To
Amari
put
Cooper.
it,
He's better.
listen. CD might be a better talent, but Amari Cooper, you're also a Raider fan, so you're biased. But Amari Cooper is a baller as well, and he was top 3 before Dak got hurt. There is no reason for me to think all of a sudden this year, Amari Cooper at 26, 27 years old is suddenly going to hit a cliff and CeeDee Lamb is going to pass it. I like
Next-
both of them.
Ooh. Okay.
Next year, CD takes over.
It's
Fair
not
enough.
there yet.
Maybe this year. It
Okay,
might be.
fair enough. Fair enough. Can the king speak? Can the king speak? Obviously, the name sticks because you're looking at the former champion himself. And I just wanted to keep this up. Joe, you mentioned I went young. And yes, I did. I want to pull up a little screenshot I have here from my evaluation of last year's team. According to, and again, I hate going off of Yahoo, but I do like some of their information. According to Yahoo, last year, my team was the youngest team in our league, and I went on to win the championship. Riding the back, sure, maybe of Alvin Kamara, and yes, I made some trades along the way. but that's the fun of fantasy football. It's not where you start. It's about where you finish, gentlemen. Let's go over my team again. Sure, you want to go ahead and bash CeeDee Lamb? Do it. I love it. I want to hear all of it. But you can't sit here and tell me that Dak Prescott is not going to provide fantasy value for both CeeDee and Amari Cooper when a guy like Teddy Bridgewater was able to provide value for both DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, and Curtis Samuel last year. Dak Prescott is miles away a better quarterback. That team is going to be throwing the ball at least 650 times this year. That's tops in the NFL, and that gives CeeDee Lamb at best a wide receiver 15 on the year, which is where I drafted him currently. That puts him right around where I drafted him in the top of the third round or back half of the third round. With that being said, let's move on. I like Dak Prescott. Davante Adams, unquestionable, maybe 1, maybe 2 in terms of wide receiver production. You can't tell me him and Aaron Rodgers are going to silky smooth their way to one last big wild ride, and Davante Adams is going to be great for fantasy. My running backs are where I do feel weak, and I will agree with all of you on that. However, Jonathan Taylor, I'm not as high on him. I will admit, I took the value there. We were talking about it before the podcast. I'd much rather have taken a guy like Antonio Gibson, but when he's going about 5 or 6 picks later, sometimes you got to take the value, and I panicked, and I took Jonathan Taylor there. Myles Gaskin, quite frankly, I love the guy. I know in the 4th round he's going in the 5th. I may have reached, but when I was looking at the other running backs and I needed to solidify my backfield, Gaskins was the guy. I think he's going to be a top 20 running back easy this year, which proves running back 2 value. Guess what? He was last year, so that should mean something. Logan Thomas, guys, I picked him up in like the 15th round. So I just consider that a win because the value was there. Jerry Jeudy, you all know my thoughts. He is my guy this year. He is my knight in shining armor. I can't wait to see what he does. To make you feel better, Joe, I've taken Jacoby Myers out of my starting lineup, inserted Chase Claypool, and guess what? I might even put Trey Sermon in there because he's someone's dark horses this week, and I think he's going to have a great season, getting all that bulk and all that carries. I'll stop in a second, Joe.
You know what pissed me off the most about your entire draft?
What's that?
Jalen, you know what pissed me off about your entire draft?
Let's hear it. Now we're on my bench anyways. I hear
we're already on to the 10th round, and I don't think this is huge, but Justin, in my opinion, Chubb Club, Jacob, got the biggest steal in the entire draft, and that was the value that could be Jamar Chase, which was going as high as like the 4th or 5th round before all this news about drops.
Hey, and you did come up to me right after I took him, and you said that might have been the steal of the whole draft.
Dude, yeah. Jamar Chase went 1 pick after Jalen Waddle, and I may be lower on Jamar Chase than I was 2 weeks ago, but there is no way in hell I am taking the guy with the worst quarterback, the guy with just as many wide receiver competition, and the guy who's not nearly as polished as Jamar Chase, and the guy who's going to go play with his old college quarterback. I don't know, man. If you would have had Jamar Chase on your bench, and I could say, okay, Claypool, Jamar Chase, he has a path to very good flex players and some depth. And I just think, again, I remember we did our dynasty draft, mock draft, and I went Sermon in like the 6th round, and you guys roasted me, and the only one who defended me was Jacob. And that was a dynasty draft, and I get that was a month or 2 ago. But you went young like that in redraft, and I just don't see it. Hey,
I'm not saying everybody is everybody. I get it. Rookies don't always prove value, but there's been time and time again. I'm not saying this guy's going to be the next Justin Jefferson.
Hold on.
Word out of camp is Jalen Waddle's been on fire. Word out of camp is Jamar Chase has been a bad apple. I have Jamar Chase in Dynasty. I feel confident about him later on in the season. I think Waddle with Devontae Parker and guys like Will Fuller, who suspended week 1, they've been out of preseason all preseason. They're going to take time to naturally get back into the rhythm. And in fantasy football, you want to get out the gates hot, right? Jalen Waddle is a guy who's going to get you out of the gates hot. Of course, I'm not starting him against New England in week 1, but the next 4 weeks, I'm starting him. I'm riding him high. I think he's going to be a PPR beast, and that's what this league is. Trey Lance, Joe, I'll agree with you. I took him for trade bait. I didn't account that everybody has him everywhere else. Trey Sermon was a guy I actually took. I felt the value was right. I needed a running back, and I enjoyed it. I'm done talking about my team. I've said my piece. Marvin Jones, who cares? I can drop him later. Gio Bernard, you just
I actually
wait.
liked Marvin Jones. I actually think that might be a good pick.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But I like him. He might be someone I have to drop to make moves for. Gio Bernard, he might be a guy I have to make and drop moves for. I'm sure we all have one or two guys like that. Maybe not. I know Justin's got a team he looks at and thinks it's beautiful. Let's just wait. Let's see who drops a guy first. That's all I'm saying.
All right, on to the next.
On to the next one, baby.
No hard feelings, man. It's no hard feelings.
Gabe, you talk yourself down a spot. You're 9, dude.
Just let me say, just agree with me that I said my piece and my case was good. All right.
Wait, so we got Johnny number 10, Gabe number 9.
Number 9, yeah.
Yep. Let's move on to number 8. Say it on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. I got Joe number 2.
I got Shane.
Aaron.
Jacob.
I got Gio, so this is gonna be
Everyone's on
Shane,
us.
I do have Shane as my 9th worst team, so I think that's 2 for Shane.
Mr.
I got
Running back.
Aaron.
Jacob, pull it up. Joe, I'll let you tear it down. What do you think
6th
about
round
Shane's
defense,
team?
Aaron.
Yeah. So listen, guys. I think and I said this before we even got on the podcast, dude.
Who's
Everyone's team. We're going into week 1. We're all seasoned vets. We've all been drafting a long time. I don't think this is maybe one of the first years that I've sat back and I've said, there's really no god-awful team. Yeah. So even putting Shane here is no disrespect because I look at his team and I say, you know what? He has a path to winning it all. Yeah, so I don't think that this is some awful team. He's got Aaron Rodgers, who was number 2 quarterback last year behind Josh Allen. This is not a bad pick. He's got Mike Evans and DJ Moore, 2 guys who have shown a lot throughout their seasons in fantasy football. He's got Aaron Jones and Najee Harris, probably one of the best running back duos that you can have in this league, right? Without getting CMC plus somebody else. So I actually think that's fine. The reason I have him so low, and this might be crazy, is because Zach Ertz is probably not even rosterable. And maybe that's fine because it's a tight end and Shane's saying, you know what, Zach Ertz was great 2 years ago and I'm going to give him a try. But Goddard was there in round 16 and Shane, I think, took Ertz in round 11 or 10 or something. Then he goes and rosters Bryan Edwards, Henry Ruggs, and Derek Carr, all 3 who I don't think ever make it off a bench. He gets Mark Ingram, who I think is probably running back number 3 in Houston and is not even rosterable. And then he gets Ben Roethlisberger as a 3rd quarterback. So, Shane's starting lineup, again, at this point I'm saying, you know what? The starting lineups are all very close. I don't love Josh Jacobs. And when it comes down to it, I do think that taking 4 running backs is fine. And it's going to be good value later down the line. But I think teams that have better wide receivers are going to outscore him in the short term. And yes, maybe he'll be in a position where he can say, you know what? I have Josh Jacobs on the block, and he'll go and trade up and get a better wide receiver. But coming out of the gate today, I have all the other teams scoring more than him. Because Mike Evans and DJ Moore has to be the worst running back or wide receiver duo in the league, right? I mean, maybe Jacobs, but that's not I wouldn't feel comfortable with either of those guys as my wide receiver 1. They're maybe decent wide receiver 2s, I guess, but I would say back end wide receiver 2s.
Okay.
Gabe, you're muted.
I would say the way to defend Shane on here is saying if Clyde and Josh Jacobs can become running back 1s fringe or 2s fringe 1s, then his team can win on his starting lineup. But I can't defend his depth. It's awful.
Yeah. Bye weeks will kill him, and bye weeks will come fast, and they will come quick. And you got to have depth.
Who's his best bench player? Cole Beasley?
Yeah,
Odell.
His depth.
I mean, probably Odell.
Yeah. I'd rather have Cole Beasley than Odell. Personally.
I mean, a lot of people like Bryan Edwards, but you just can't account for sleepers.
You take Odell over Cole?
Every day of the week.
Yeah,
that's not even a question.
Sure.
What the hell?
When's the last time Odell scored more fantasy points than Cole Beasley? I'd be interested.
Last year,
I'm not sure, but he got
3 or something.
He got destroyed.
All right, gentlemen. Well, hey, I took a lot of time. I want to focus on where our teams specifically fall, even though we are talking about our whole league.
Okay,
I think we're pretty much done with Shane's.
Yes.
Let's move on to our 7th worst team. Feel free to shout it out on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. I have
Jacob.
Aaron, aka Jazzy.
Johnny.
I have Jacob, and I think Johnny's already been done, and I think Jacob is probably the consensus here. Demar,
Yeah,
you
I
had
actually
Jacob.
have myself at 7 too,
Alrighty.
because I'm not biased as hell like you guys.
Let's go ahead and
your
pull
own
up
team.
You ranked me
Jacob's
last
team.
time.
I don't have them there, so I don't feel the need to talk about them. But I will let Justin.
Oh.
I don't think you got a lot of peace.
Free advertisement for whoever that was.
I mean, you know the reason I ranked you where you.
Well,
were
then,
at,
Damon,
Jacob.
let's hear it. Let's hear it. Why is Jacob your 7th worst team?
Because of Robbie Anderson.
Hater.
That's disrespect.
If you dropped him, I'd be fine.
Dude,
No, but
my goodness.
like,
Well,
every team is
Jacob.
good, and I think the reason that I devalue Jacob is because of Kelsey, which is weird because Kelsey is going to be the X factor in all his
that's
matchups.
why so everybody knows I took him in the first round, and which is where he's been going. So,
but then your team, you got hitters though with
the
Chase.
reason
Brown,
I don't
Ben.
like Jacob's team, to break it down, is there's no boom besides Kelsey. I can't see me losing a week to anybody besides a 35er by Kelsey. You know, good quarterback, whatever. Your wide receiver core is mediocre. There's nothing that is going to beat me every week. Like, oh, Cup, great, big deal. I do like what you have for you is potential on the bench. Connor, who knows what he can do. If Chase gets hurt, he can become a premier. Jamar Chase, Kareem Hunt. I like that, but nothing is like, oh, damn, Dalvin Cook, CMC, I lost. There's no question about it. There's none of that on that roster. So it's an even team, but there's no boom for me.
Yeah,
Kelsey's his boom, yeah.
I think Jacob, he's got the best tight end in the league. He's got arguably a top 5, I mean, not even arguably, hands down a top 5 quarterback. So he's solid at the bookends, and his depth is there, right? So for that reason, I elevate him. But you guys are right. He's not in contention with the best running backs in the league. They're solid, not in contention with the best. And he definitely doesn't have the best wide receivers, probably close to the bottom, right? So those are the 2 positions that you have to rely on the most, especially in a 2 flex league. You're starting 6 of those guys compared to 1 quarterback, 1 tight end. So I think that's where he gets the notch down for me. But listen, Justin hit the nail on the head. That bench has potential. Jamar Chase could be a baller. Chuba Hubbard could end up, CMC had an injury last year. If that happens, Chuba Hubbard's a running back 1.
Antonio
Brown could be the number 1 wide receiver in Tampa. So there's
you know where
potential.
Jacob's going to come up when someone gets a bad injury and he trades his depth to come up.
Yeah, so I'll just say I'm not going to defend myself like Gabe did, but I'll explain the situation. I had the number 9 pick, which I hated right away. Once I got that, I was like, "This is I'm just going to have to make the best of it, right?" So I took Kelsey at number 9. So I was like, "Screw it! If I'm going to be number 9, I'm going to get the best advantage of that position. The rest of the stuff I'll figure out." Second of all, if you guys don't think Nick Chubb is a boom player, I don't know what kind of football you're watching when you watch the Browns play and you watch Nick Chubb play fully healthy. He is the definition of a boom player. He's a freaking monster. So I love having, like, Nick Chubb's an RB1. When I take Kelsey as my first pick, I'm cool with that. Now, basically what happened was all the running backs were drying up so fast, so I had to take Montgomery, and then I had to take Swift. From that point on, and after I took them, all the wide receivers were gone. And I was like, all right, guess I'm rolling with Cooper Kupp as my wide receiver 1. And I love Brandon Ayuk as a value. I think he's going to be a high-end wide receiver 2 this year. So, look, right after we finished, I was like, I don't like my team. But I think just like everybody else and myself, I'm undervaluing how much of a advantage Kelsey is. Yeah. So I think I'm going to like my team more once the season gets going and I start, winning some matchups. But I just like it right now.
Yeah. So, Jacob, the only thing I would say is, never mind. I was going to say maybe, you could have, instead of taking a guy like Lamar Jackson, I'm looking at
I got Lamar in the 7th. He was the last top-tier quarterback left, which I love that.
Other than Dak. So, I was going to say,
Dak was still there, but I'm worried about Dak.
Your team
you could have went with Claypool, but actually, if you're going to go weak, and I like having Lamar, I'd rather take my chance and
that's
say,
the point.
I'll be strong at quarterback.
I have to be strong at quarterback and tight end if I'm weak so weak at wide receiver, you know?
Yeah, I'm with you. So, yeah, I take it back.
You're a trade away from being great.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see if some of these bench guys hit.
Yeah. All right.
Gabe, you're muted again.
Again, it's not about where you start. It's about where you finish. So thanks for throwing that in. One trade away from having a monster team. Let's talk about our 5th ranked team. We're talking about our 6th.
We're 6th, yeah.
So these are playoff teams now, right? So we could change the lingo a little bit. Our 6th best team. Gentlemen, on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. I got Gio.
Shane.
Aaron.
I got Aaron, but I had Gio at number at 8.
Well, then it looks like we're talking about Aaron. I had Aaron over at, I believe, 7. So this is a perfect
I thought
spot.
someone had him at 10. Okay, yeah.
And just for clarification, this isn't entirely Aaron's team. It is AKA Jazzy, I believe, his better half. So we're going to be ranking it based off of that. Gentlemen, have at it.
He might have
How
the best team name, even though it's for Jarvis Landry.
I'll repent because I had him down 7th, but looking at his team, his big hitters are enough to win every single week. I'm not even playing like that.
Let's just sum it up for him really quick because I feel like some people don't get to see the whole team. Josh Allen at quarterback, DK Metcalf, Chris Godwin are his top wide receivers. Dalvin Cook and Gus Edwards, that's filthy. Darren Waller, then things get messy with the flexes. Jarvis Landry and Marquise Brown, and his bench. A reason why
he has Michael Thomas on the bench, which I didn't even realize.
He does, but he's.
And if Michael Thomas comes back week 7, this is not the team that you want to play in the playoffs.
No,
right?
He's hoarding a lot of tight ends.
To me, his team fringes on Chris Godwin being good and Gus Edwards being good too. If they don't pan out, then he's gonna have a hard time filling spots.
Yeah, but like you said, it's the top end talent for him, right? So let's say we're in week 10 and Michael Thomas is healthy and everybody's healthy. Obviously, that's not going to be the case, but let's say it is. And you're sitting there with Dalvin Cook, Michael Thomas, DK Metcalf, Josh Allen, Darren Waller. That's boom right there. Those 5 win you weeks. I don't care if
that's nutty.
If I have to start Leonard Fournette to get me 10 points, that's fine because I know I'm going to get 100 out of those 5 or 120.
Aaron is about to win the league if he plays the waiver wire right.
Yeah, which he doesn't. That's the problem.
Yeah.
He keeps that waiver wire number. But Aaron has by far the worst flex in the league now that I'm looking at it again.
Oh, yeah, it's awful.
But, and that's why I would have ranked him so much higher if they just didn't take Pittsburgh's defense and actually went out and got a flex.
Let's just say his top guys pan out and Michael Thomas comes off the IR and instantly inserts dominance upon the league. Then that becomes one of his flexes. I feel much more confident about it then. But again, dude, in redraft leagues, you want to get off to a really hot start and hopefully not fizzle out. At least that's what I like to do. So with that being said, that's kind of why I have him where he is. I don't think he has the flexes. But you guys said it on the nail on the coffin. I mean, Dalvin Cook and Waller and Josh Allen, those 3 alone, if they go off, you don't care what the rest of your team does. You just won your week. So
I don't know if they intended this during the draft, but if Jalen Hurts becomes top 12, that's tradable. And then if Fant and Henry become good, then they're tradable to someone who's streaming tight ends. So if he makes moves, he can be good.
Yeah, I think Aaron's team is gonna be at the top of the standings at least for the first half of the year.
Team.
Yeah.
Chad's
what were you
drafted,
saying, Jacob?
Aaron's going to be running the team.
Well, I was saying that, I think his team's going to get off to a hot start and have, be one of the teams at the top of the –
and then fizzle.
But we'll see how it goes because he has a lot of – like Justin said, he has a lot of hitters.
Well, if he doesn't play the waiver wire, he doesn't trade, so –
Yeah, so
the waiver wire doesn't
if one or 2 of his flexes work out, then his team is going to be super solid all year.
Yeah, it's just when you look at the fact that they went Pittsburgh – in round 8, when after that you could have got any of Deebo Samuel, Corey Davis, Jalen Waddle, Jamar Chase. I mean, these are literally all guys I want to put in my flex over his guys, right? Yeah. So it's do I need Pittsburgh's defense? Not really. Am I that much higher on Pittsburgh's defense than the next guy? Not really. So that was the killer for me.
Yeah, that was an awfully big stretch. And for that reason and a couple of more, we find him as our 6th best team. So he's still making the playoff according to our league projections. Let's move on to number 5. Gentlemen, on the count of 3. Jacob, you'll be happy to know I had you here at number 5. Where did you guys have? Who did you guys have?
DeMont.
I had Joe P.
Joe P. Oh, man, this is confusing. This is where we finally
So I think I've heard Joe's name at least twice now. So
Yeah, hi, Joe.
Yeah, let's go, Joe. Joe.
Joe 2.
I will list off his team as Jacob pulls it up. He currently has Patrick Mahomes as his QB, A.J. Brown and Keelan Allen combined for a deadly wide receiver option, Derrick Henry, the Bull himself, followed by Raheem Mostert, a questionable running back too, Mike Gesicki, yikes, Tyler Lockett, one of the biggest boom-bust players you'll ever find, and Juju Smith-Schuster round out his flex. Reading that off, that sounds really damn good.
Yeah,
Mike Gesicki is questionable for me. There might be a lot of mouths to feed, but who knows? That guy, he had great games last year. When you don't know how much of an impact guys like Devontae Parker and Will Fuller missing preseason and then missing possibly week 1 have on the long-lasting effects or the immediate impact of a season. So a guy like Mike Gesicki could be a beneficiary of that. And then we have his bench: Ronald Jones, Devontae Smith, Nelson Aguilar, Kenyon Drake, James White, Matt Ryan, Goddard. Guys, what are we thinking?
Right, so he's the best quarterback in the league, right? Or top 5, top 2. And
he got him late, guys. He got Mahomes late. I mean, we usually see Mahomes going like at the 1-2 turn, like almost instantly after Kelsey, and he got him in the 4th round. So we didn't take QBs until late, guys. Props to us.
And he's got some of the best wide receivers in the league, probably the best wide receiver trio in the league. His weakness is second running back, right? Raheem Mostert should be more than fine to start the season. But what happens if Mostert gets hurt? You're going to lean on Ronald Jones? I don't even think Ronald Jones is the starter on his team, right?
We could say that about anyone, but Mostert does have injury history, so that's why we have to kind of cover that.
My problem with his team is that the Ronald Jones is unknown and Kenyon Drake is a backup. And if he can't solidify an RB2, I think we've all been there. There's nothing worse than not having an let me rephrase, not an RB2, a second running back to slot, because it's real difficult and you lose because you have a inferior running back core. He's going to have problems come mid-season, I think.
Yeah, but that top in town is just too much.
I mean, everything other than the second running back issue is pretty solid, to be honest. Like, we've been talking about the weakness at flex for most of these teams. He has the better flexes than most of the teams we talked about prior to this. So I like it, and I like Devontae Smith with some upside. Like, Ronald Jones is never going to be your RB2, but like, he's a guy you can throw in there if you have to. So it's a pretty top heavy team.
I mean, I actually think his saving grace might end up being Kenyon Drake. Like, I don't even look at Ronald Jones as his running back 3. I look at Kenyon Drake as the running back 3, and I say,
no, Ronald Jones is starting in Tampa Bay. Why
there's
would
a possibility that one of those guys pans out, right? So
Ronald Jones will have his weeks, but I also think he's going to have weeks where he does nothing because Fournette is just such a better player. So
that's almost every backfield. You're never going to hit every week.
Yeah, but Ronald Jones just to me is not on. He was on my do not touch this year because I just think Fournette is just so much better. And look what happened towards the end of last season and into the playoffs. Fournette took over, and I don't think anything's going to change that this year. So, but Kenyon Drake I see as a PPR back, especially on the Raiders. So I could see him having really bad running back to really good flex play, but that's fine if you can make it work. And if Josh Jacobs goes down, Kenyon Drake becomes a stud. So,
and I think Mike Gesicki's underrated, honestly. He was a top 10 tight end last year, and I know they have more mouths to feed in Miami, but I just think he's a safety blanket for Tua. Tua's so accurate. I think Gesicki's underrated, to be honest.
I think if you're going to grab a guy like Gesicki, I'd love to have a guy like Goddard. That way, one of them.
Yeah, those two rotate them. Like Shane could use one of those guys.
Yeah, no doubt.
Right? Well, hey, there's a reason why they're our 5th best team. We don't have to spend too much time talking about them. Let's focus on some of these other ones as we get to the top. We know, obviously, we're not going to be picking and pulling them apart because they are one of our better teams, or they are some of our better teams, I should say. So let's move on to our fourth best team. I had myself. Clearly, that didn't work out well.
I
was
have Demont.
100% biased, and I'll stand by it. But
I had Demont.
Gio, Demont, who'd you have?
For 4, I had Gio.
And Jacob.
Gio.
So,
And it's
how
Gio.
many votes have we had for Justin so far? None? Just me?
Just you. Hater. Hater.
Okay,
Hater.
so Gio had more negative votes than Demont. Yeah?
Yeah, it looks like it. So let's pull up.
Oh
his
yeah,
team.
I had Gio at 8. So yeah.
I had Demont at 5, so yeah.
But
Gio.
he does.
Yeah, 'cause you're a scrub, that's why.
It looks like consensus. He is our fourth best team, so we're going to talk about it now. Tom Brady is his quarterback. Stephon Diggs and Robert Woods are his wide receivers. Saquon Barkley and Darrell Henderson, George Kittle, Julio Jones, and Deebo Samuel round out the flex, and a bench that I am now reconsidering why I have him as my fourth best team. As I look at Damian Harris, DJ Chark, Will Fuller, Devontae Booker, Troy Tagovailoa, Neon Hines, and Rob Gronkowski. Instantly off the back, I'll say something because I've been quiet for the last two teams. I'm not a big fan on Darrell Henderson. Obviously, I drafted Sony Michel. I don't expect big things from Sony Michel, but I don't expect big things from Darnell Henderson either. So with that being said, there's my first and biggest glaring problem. And, to kind of piggyback off of what you guys were saying about one of the other teams earlier, when you can't find that running back too, you are in trouble. Damian Harris might be that guy, though, so I think he's in a little bit better of a position. But after that, it completely falls off the bandwagon for me.
Well, I think I should speak because I had Gio at 8, and I should explain
Go
why.
ahead, Jacob.
Look, we're worried. Like I think we could all agree we don't love his RB2 situation. Like Darrell Henderson could work out, Damian Harris could work out, but then even his RB1 is shaky. Like I'm avoiding Saquon unless he falls to me at a good spot. So it's not like he has CMC and the rest of these guys, or even like Zeke and the rest of these guys. It's a guy I'm really worried about personally for Saquon. So what happens if Saquon's out week 1? Or Saquon's limited week 1? Are his other RBs going to be able to carry him? Yes, his 4 or 5 wide receivers are solid as hell. Like maybe him and I can work out a trade for seeing as I have some running back depth. He has some wide receiver depth. So, these are our initially drafted teams, so we're looking at him that way. But obviously he has Kittle, which you can never, as long as Kittle's healthy, that's an advantage there. But to me, his RBs scare the hell out of me. So that's why I have him so low.
Yeah, I mean, I had him at 4, but after reconsidering running backs, I love his receivers. But after Damian Harris, there's nothing. And one injury is going to make him scramble big time. But in the counter, I think he has the depth to make a nice trade to pivot away from that.
Yeah. So I had him at team number 2. So I'll go the opposite. Why I had him so high.
Yeah.
Julio Jones, absolute steal where he got him. I want to say it was like the 7th or 8th round. It was something crazy, like 6th, 7th, 8th round. Deebo is going to be a monster again this year. Darrell Henderson had weeks last year, guys. And I think that there's some catching potential there as well with him, right? So there's a little bit less mouths to feed in Los Angeles this year. It feels like they've lost some guys along the way. Cam Akers is gone. Joe Everett's gone. Malcolm Brown's gone. I don't know. I could see Darrell Henderson having a pretty nice year, even if I don't love him as an RB2 at all, right? Saquon Barkley, like if I'm in Gio's spot or if I'm in Johnny's spot and I'm there, I'm going balls to the wall, man. Like I feel like you have to nail that first pick. So I don't want to take someone who might be a little safe. I want to take a guy like Saquon, who I think could be the RB number 1. So I'm totally fine with that. And I think that his wide receivers are so damn good that, like, the opposite of Shane's team, where Shane has 4 super solid running backs, Gio's team is going to outscore those running backs with his wide receivers. So can his running backs equal what Shane's running backs are? I think more than that. And then he has George Kittle and Tom Brady, which is super solid. And then the depth. If Saquon Barkley, to answer your question, is not healthy, Jacob, I think Devontae Booker is by far the best guy they've had coming off the bench in New York ever behind him. So he should be more than startable. And then Shark has high potential. Fuller has high potential. Damien Harris has high potential. I
His
love the
team
bench.
His team is all about Saquon being elite and Robert Woods being a wide receiver too.
100%. Couldn't agree more. Justin, that was the perfect sum up. We're going to start. I know we're getting down to the top three, and obviously, if you haven't noticed, they're all three guys that are sitting in this room. But we're not going to fly through them, but we are going to go ahead and say our piece. Let's get to it with our third best team. I have DeMont there. Gentlemen, who do you have?
I had Joe too.
I got Justin.
I had Joe too, but I had DeMont at 4.
I had Shane.
So
I
that
had
looks like we're
DeMont
talking
at
about
5.
DeMont. Let's go ahead and pull up DeMont's team. Caramel Drizzle himself.
Caramel Drizzle.
I like that name, dude.
Is it 4? No, well, I guess I can't say it. But why? What's your reason for that?
Not if it's too inappropriate.
It just
Okay.
okay. Never mind.
I thought it was because of Max. I thought it because your son. You know, he's like
No, he's not even caramel.
He's white, baby.
It's referring
Anyways,
to DeMont.
Kyler Murray is his QB. I have him as the number 1 overall QB. That's right. Hot takes. Calvin Ridley, Adam Thielen round out a precisely good wide receiving core. Then we move on to the running backs. CMC can't go wrong there when you have the number 1 overall pick. Joe Mixon, Robert Tonyan. A little bit of a stretch there. Mike Davis and Laviska Shenault, one of the people that many are keeping their eyes on in the fantasy community this season. Kenny Galladay, question mark or question of greatness? We'll wait to be seen. I don't know who wants to own the Buffalo backfield, but he does. Devin Singletary and Zach Moss. Elijah Moore, Sammy Watkins, Tevin Coleman, and Joe Burrow.
Dude, so I get so excited in the pants when I see Calvin Ridley and CMC.
Since we're at the top, just tell me why Justin and Joe's team is better than mine.
Look, Damon, I can't.
Wait, we gotta see our teams first.
I have something prepared for Joe.
Oh, do you? Okay, never mind.
Your team is good, and if I had it my way, you might have been second. And Joe, honestly, I mean, hey, we'll say our piece in a second, but I think Justin has a really good team. I think Joe has a really good team. And
the reason that your team isn't on Justin and I actually had you ahead of Justin by 1 spot because Calvin Ridley, Kyler Murray, and McCaffrey, like I said, they get me excited. Joe Mixon as an RB2, I don't love him, but as an RB2, fine. Take it.
What do you mean? Before he went out 6 games, he was
but he goes out every year, bro.
He got 20 touches a game.
Mixon, he's people's RB1s on most teams, so
he gets 20 touches.
That doesn't make it right.
Average 20 touches for 6 games before he went out.
Bro,
you can't sit here and tell me that anybody who is getting volume like Joe Mixon will get, you don't want on your team.
20 touches a game.
That volume
That's
playing
crazy.
behind an equally bad line. Mixon's going to get the volume playing behind a line.
I just don't like Mixon. But again,
so you think he's going to get hurt? I mean,
you don't
that's the
have
only reason
to.
you don't like him.
Cool.
You think he's going to get hurt. That's the only reason you wouldn't want him.
This is the problem with DeMont's team.
Sucks.
And when I say problem, you have your top 3. You just are team question mark with Adam Thielen having such a high touchdown rate last year. Do you think it's going to come up, making him wide receiver 2? Joe Mixon's Joe Mixon. Mike Davis, he is a starting running back, but what can he do in Atlanta? Laviska as your flex, and then Galladay. Like, you have potential to have the elevation and be great, or you have those question marks all year that linger and piss you off week to week, and that's what I'm worried about with your team.
That's
I
what
don't
I
like
feel
your
about the
bench,
Buffalo
really.
backfield as well. I think Justin summed it up perfectly.
I like Zach Moss, actually. I think he may end up becoming your RB3 if the Bills let him, but it seems like they're not going to, so we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Damon, fabulous team nonetheless. Let's move on. Number 2, I have Joe.
Oh, wow. I put myself as 2.
Jacob?
Yeah, I have Justin.
I don't even remember.
You're the deciding factor.
About
Justin.
So let's talk about Justin.
No, yeah. Well, I had myself ahead of Justin, but okay, go ahead.
Yeah, fair enough. Let's talk about Justin. Vikings QB Ryan Tannehill, one of the deep sleeper. Well, he's not a deep sleeper. He's a great value. That's where you got him. Tyreek Hill, Adam Robinson, one of the best wide receiver duos in the league so far. Ezekiel Elliott and James Robinson round out a beautiful running back core. TJ Hawkinson, the man in Detroit. Amari Cooper, who we all think is going to be better than CeeDee Lamb. And yes, I said we all think it. So, and you also got Chase Edmonds in your flex. I can't wait to see what he does with the ball. Your bench, Tyler Boyd, Corey Davis, beautiful. Tony Pollard, your handcuff. Michael Carter, question mark. J.D. McKissick, maybe question mark. Russell Gage, looks to be a solid flex play as the year goes on, and Trevor Lawrence. I love it, man. I love everything about your team.
Thank you.
I'll just say real quick.
That's why I have you as number one.
The reason I have Justin so high is I like his flexes a lot. Good bench, no glaring weaknesses. So that's basically it.
Yeah, great tight end, good running backs. Justin's only weakness in my eyes, which I don't even know if you'll consider a weakness, is third RB is Chase. That's not even a weakness, though.
That's amazing.
Like,
I was so happy.
I guess. I'm not super high on Chase Edmonds myself. I don't want to touch the Arizona running back. And listen, I didn't touch him at all in this entire – I did 5 drafts. I didn't touch him once. It may come back to bite me. But until I see something consistent, whether it's Edmonds, whether it's Connor, I don't want to touch neither of them.
I would bench Edmonds and play LaVisca.
I would bench Edmonds and play Boyd over both of them. So,
well, looks like you guys can start to sit.
But I do like Justin's bench a lot. Boyd, Corey Davis, Michael Carter's got a ton of boom potential. Russell Gage, it's a damn good bench.
His bench okay.
Fair enough. That leaves Justin. Congratulations. That leaves
Hold
us
on,
with
hold
one.
on.
Oh, sorry, Justin. Go ahead. Defend yourself.
To defend myself to be number one, thank you, Gabe. The reason I couldn't put myself one is because I'm like that dude at the gym that's benching 280 for the last 2 years. Like, I don't see myself breaking 300. Like, I love it. There's no boom on my team, but there's no weaknesses. There's no breaks. So an injury won't really hurt me. Yeah, okay, then who? Zeke? I'm not loving
Justin
it.
is so hard to impress. Like,
yeah.
There's only like 3 boom players in the league, according to Justin.
So Tyreek, Zeke, James Robinson, Cooper, I think any of them, those guys can boom. But
one last statement, I think I have the best trio. I don't have the best duo, but I got the best trio. If Cooper's my third best, I'm having a great day.
Well, it remains to be seen when we look at my team.
Remains to be seen, but I like your team.
3 wide receivers are amazing.
Let's round it out before we do our matchups. We'll spend a little bit of time on those. Joe, number one, you see him flexing there. Let me start off with my story, and I'll start it off, and I'll be quick. I tell a tale of collusion. Collusion to the highest extent of any court. Jacob knows what I'm talking about. At the draft, first of all, to give you a little bit of backstory.
First of all,
our loan hold on. Our loan commissioner Shane did some weird ass thing that we've never seen before in terms of finding the number one pick. And when it came down to it, a couple of people had a hard time getting their ball in the cup. Everybody else had already solidified their draft spots. So Joe decides to look under all of the cups.
I didn't do it.
And notices that he sees the number 2 pick still sitting there under one of the cups. Jazzy, bless her heart, didn't know any better. And Joe kept telling her simply, just drop it in this cup. Drop it in this cup.
That's
you
true.
pointed in that cup
True story.
many times.
Hey,
true story.
It is a true story, and that's where we find ourselves now. So I call that if he wins a championship this year, I will put an asterisk next to it. Because of that, I still think you have the best team in the league.
You said I did.
Oh, I'm sorry, the second best team in the league.
He said I did.
All right, go ahead. Jacob, you had me at number 1, right?
Yeah.
And Jamal, you had me at
2. I had myself at 1.
And Gabe, you had me at 2. And Justin, you had me at?
I put you at 1.
Okay. Well,
the running backs.
Because you're a cut.
Look, there's really nothing to say, man. Alvin Kamara, Antonio Gibson, amazing. Justin Jefferson, Deontay Johnson, amazing. Justin Herbert, amazing. Kyle Pitts, who truly knows, but he's a tight end 1. T. Higgins, how many times is Baker Mayfield going to throw the ball? I think he is the best wide receiver on that team.
Joe Burrow.
I absolutely hate I absolutely hate everything about Miles Sanders, but that's it. That's your only weakness. I love your bench: Javonte, Curtis Samuels, Jamal Williams, Michael Pittman. It's good. And now you got Tyron Jones right there. Literally, the only thing I hate is Miles Sanders and your collusion. That's it.
So I'll tell you guys. Since there's nothing to defend, I'm the number 1. So I love my starting lineup. I love Herbert. I love Pitts. I don't think I honestly, this is the first year where I've come into a draft and I've taken Kyle Pitts a lot this year. I think in 3 leagues, and I never do that. I always punt quarterback. I always punt tight end, and I felt like I got very, very good value with Herbert and Kyle Pitts later on in the draft, when Waller and those guys were going in the 2nd and 3rd round. Kelsey in the 1st. And then my bench, Gabe, I think you touched on it right there. My bench is just phenomenal, right? Pittman, he's going to open the league.
I can't listen to Joe talk about
because you draft guys that I hype up all offseason and you never say one good thing about, and then you draft them. Like, what the hell?
Hold on. I want to say the biggest steal that I got, I think, was Javonte Williams in the 8th round. And now, wait. You may be asking why Melvin Gordon's there. Gabe took Trey Sermon in the 5th round. Okay.
Did I take him in the 5th round?
You took
Trey Sermon.
Round.
Sorry.
Yeah, Trey Sermon. I took Javonte Williams in the 8th. I love Trey Sermon. And I won't even hate on you for taking him in the 5th. I think maybe it's a little early, but fine. But I think Javonte Williams has just as good of a chance to be as great as Trey Sermon because Denver historically runs the ball a lot too. They're going to have a new quarterback in Teddy Bridgewater. That offense is going to surprise people. I think Denver is going to push for a playoff spot this year, actually. I think they have a damn good offense. And I think Javonte Williams could end up being a league winner. 2nd round pick, very high in the draft, could be this year's Cam Akers. I keep telling everybody that. Go look at the measurements. Go look at how similar they are. Go look at the scenario. He is going to come out and not be the number 1 right off the bat, but give it to week 8. That man is going to be in every lineup across the country. And T. Higgins is also going to be the number 1 wide receiver in Cincinnati. I said it on our podcast before. I'm sticking with it. Forget Tyler Boyd. I like Jamar Chase, but T. Higgins is the number 1 over there with a dynamic offense.
I don't think that was ever a question, to be honest. But the reason where I see you having problems, if Deontay doesn't perform with that heavy thing, then maybe gets banged up. I don't like playing Curtis Samuels or Pittman every single week.
That would be your one weakness, honestly, is wide receiver depth. I'm not as high on Deontay Johnson as most people are. For me, T. Higgins would be my wide receiver 2 on your team. And I like Deontay in the flex. Doesn't matter. It's all semantics.
Fair,
what spot you put him in, right? But what if Deontay gets injured? Then your wide receiver depth is looking very shallow. That may maybe be your one weakness, but obviously I had you number 1. So,
well, the way I see it is Curtis Samuel last year was very, very fantasy relevant as the number 3 in a Teddy Bridgewater-led offense. Yeah. So in a Ryan Fitzpatrick offense where he's number 2, unless Diami Brown just straight up passes him, which I don't think is going to happen. Curtis Samuel, people don't realize, is only 24 years old. I think he's going to be I took him as a safety net. Like, if an injury happens, this man goes in my lineup. I'm not even worried about it.
Yeah.
And Jamal Williams, Justin loves him. And he's my, 5th running back? So,
yeah, I feel you beat me on the running backs and I beat you on the wide receivers, but I value running backs more. That's why I gave you 1.
Jacob, can I not call Gabe and say, hey, give me Debo, let me give you Javonte or Miles Sanders? So worst case scenario, end of the day, I feel like
you can trade for a wide receiver later or
easily,
pick one up.
Easily. And I think Pittman, to start the year, I may not be as high on him long term. If Wentz plays, Pittman is almost a must start in my eyes. Right?
I don't know. I think guys like Pascal, look, those aren't like shimmering names, but
Pascal and Paris Campbell, I get it.
Yeah.
But
I think that they're going to orchestrate and they're going to run the ball a lot. So I don't know about – I like Michael Pittman, though. And, dude, your team's ranked number 1, so obviously. Yeah.
I got the best wide receiver trio.
You're muted.
Actually, I take everything back, bro. You have Michael Pittman, so hell yeah. He's the shit. He's going to go up this year.
Jacob hyped me up on Michael Pittman this offseason, I'll be honest. I thought he was –
Oh, so you admit
I told you
one of Jacob's hyped up players.
No, there's nothing wrong with that. Everyone's fair game.
I told Jacob this offseason, 2 guys that he hyped me up on were Gabriel Davis and Michael Pittman. And I'll also tell you one other thing that I've told Jacob for the longest time too, is that this last year, this 2020 NFL draft is going to go down, and it may already very well be a historic, one of the greatest drafts of all time. And one of the advice I heard, and I'll leave you fantasy people with this, is trade 2021 draft picks for 2020 draft picks. Because 2020 was the greatest year in fantasy rookie history. And I don't think 2021 is going to sniff it, even though people are thinking, Jamar Chase, Waddle, Devontae Smith, somebody's got to pan out. These guys are not going to be as fantasy relevant as 2020 was at all.
Well, if you add the running backs and the wide receivers from last year, it's crazy.
Only the quarterbacks from this year. But even they're not going to match last year with Burrow and Herbert. but Lance, Fields, Lawrence, the quarterbacks of this year could be very good, but the wide receivers and running backs are not close.
Yeah.
Joe, I'm glad that you left us with this. We are running out of time. We will post the matchups this week, the highlight matchups from both our Dynasty and our Redraft League in our socials. So be on the lookout for that. Hey, there might even be an Amazon gift card up for grabs if you can call both of our games this week. So be on the lookout. With that being said, gentlemen, we have ranked our teams. Joe, good luck, friend, because now everyone's gunning for you, and I'll be happy to reclaim my throne. Actually, I have the throne. So you got to come for me, baby. You got to come for me. Everyone else, good luck to you. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. You can find us anywhere you get your podcast. That is it for us. We are First Round Fantasy. This is the It's Personal podcast. It got personal today. I'm a little hurt. It's whatever. From all of us, we'll talk to you later. Have a good week and have a good week 1 of fantasy football, baby. Peace.
Peace.